Good morning, friends. This is Dewey, and my Tech Talk topic for today is Lidar, which you heard about in February. I'll expand on it a little bit. AR, which is augmented reality, and maps, which Google feels is so ubiquitous they can just call it maps. And then I'll be tying these topics together at the end. Lidar is the acronym for Light Detection and Ranging. It's an active remote sensing system that uses light in the form of pulsed laser to measure distances. These laser light pulses and other data points generated by the system create accurate 3D information about objects in their environment by taking zillions of precise time measurements. Hughes Aircraft Company built the first LiDAR prototype in 1961. And a decade later, in 1971, the Apollo 15 mission used LiDAR to map parts of the surface of the moon. Two basic categories of LiDAR are airborne and terrestrial. LiDAR terrestrial mapping is considered to be unparalleled in depth and dimension for finding the distance between two objects and does so faster than radar or cameras. LiDAR is among a group of today's technologies that form the basic building blocks of automation. From basic applications in sensors to 3D printing, 3D scanning, modeling, smart cities, and so forth, LiDAR is transforming the world in many ways. Well, how about consumer applications? Back in February, guest presenter Bill James told us about the Wise robotic vacuum cleaner that uses LiDAR technology to map the area in the home to be vacuumed before its first time use, and then it remembers it for the future. Several weeks later, our security guy, Bob G., Security Bob, demonstrated his new Wise robotic vacuum cleaner and demonstrated its elegant LiDAR mapping technology. For those few who might not know, Wise is a home products company that was founded by former Amazon employees. Their products may be purchased from Amazon or directly at wise.com. LiDAR is the core technology that makes autonomous vehicles possible and has significantly changed the field of land surveying forever. And it allows archaeologists to create models that were impossible to create early. I said nearly, but they were impossible to create. In 2018, stunning 3D images of an ancient Mayan city in Guatemala were revealed when LiDAR digitally removed the forest canopy to reveal these ancient ruins. Unbelievable. AR is the acronym for augmented reality. Augmented reality is an enhanced image or environment as viewed on a screen or other display, and is produced by overlaying computer-generated images, sounds, or other data on a real-world environment. It's a technology that enables the user to view virtual content just like it might exist or would have existed in the real world. Using point cloud, LiDAR adds to the AR experience. So what is LiDAR point cloud? Point clouds are huge sets of points that describe an object or surface. With the help of drone technology, LiDAR can also be used indoors to scan an area and record its data points, which produces a point cloud that's used to create a 3D model. That's how it works. So why am I telling you all about this stuff? Well, it's because Jay Peters reported in TheVerge.com on March 30th, a few days ago, that Google recently announced that it will be making some big upgrades to directions in maps, including a new tool to help with indoor navigation. Haven't had that before. This is big, I predict. Google also announced that it's bringing its live view AR directions, augmented reality directions, to airports, transit stations, and malls. Live view directions let you hold your phone up, point your camera at the world around you, and see arrows and icons pointing you in the direction you need to go. I'm sure many of you didn't even know that you have live view in your Google Maps, but it's there, especially for walking tours. In the event you're not familiar with live view in maps, I'll help you. To access live view on your Android phone or tablet, First, enter a destination in the search bar or tap it on a map, and then tap directions. Above the map in the travel mode toolbar, we'll say that again, travel mode toolbar, tap walking. At the bottom center of your screen, tap live view. That's it, you're there. By the way, live view should be available to most IO users using maps as well. Finding it is similar, but just enough different that a search for instructions may be warranted. Map users will need to practice patience in waiting for the rollout of indoor navigation. Live view augmented reality indoors will be slowly but surely growing in coverage in the coming years. At this time, live view AR is only available in some malls in Chicago, Long Island, Los Angeles, Newark, San Francisco, San Jose, and Seattle. Internationally, Google will launch indoor live view in directions we'll try that again. Internationally, Google will launch indoor live view directions in select transit stations, airports, and malls in Tokyo and Zurich in the coming months, and more cities are on the way, the company says. Google is also planning to revamp the interface for picking your mode of transportation for directions on Android and iOS devices. Currently, Maps users have to toggle through different tabs to see more detail about different transportation options. But with a new interface that's coming soon, you'll just scroll through a list. Google says Maps will even be able to prioritize the modes you prefer and put those that are popular in certain cities, like the subway in New York, for example, higher up on the list. This new interface is set to roll out globally in the next several months. In addition to the directions interface, Google is adding a new type of driving route that's optimized for local fuel consumption. Environmentalists will love that. If the eco-friendly route has about the same ETA, estimated time of arrival, as the fastest route to a location, Maps will default to the more fuel-efficient route, though you can change that in the settings if you'd like. Google plans to make these new fuel-efficient routes available on Android and iOS in the US later this year. Google also plans to pilot a new grocery store pickup tool this summer with select Portland, Oregon-based locations of the Kroger-owned grocery store chain, Fred Meyer. The tool lets you share your location and estimated time of arrival with the store via Maps so that your grocery order can be ready when you arrive. I'm writing this tech talk on April 1st, and I suspected it was an April Fool's Day joke when I read the headline, Microsoft killed Cortana and no one will miss her. Happily, it was not an April Fool's joke. Cortana is gone. Yay! I've read that in the game universe, all AI, artificial intelligence programs, lose control of their faculties at the 7-year mark. Kind of weird. Since real life imitates art, Cortana, the digital assistant, will shut down just about 7 years after her debut. Finally, shortly before this time next Monday, when our TFS meeting begins, Joanne and I will be leaving our son's home in Superior, Colorado, and driving back to our Minnesota home. Now, if my Verizon phone's hotspot cooperates, it could be the first time that a TFS regular member participant will have taken part in a TFS Zoom meeting while riding in a car. We'll see if it happens. Thankfully, my wife, Joanne, is a good driver. Well, that's my Tech Talk story for today, and I'm sticking with it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a great day.
All right. This morning, I'm going to talk about what I had no idea even existed a month and a half ago. It's a new format for solid state drives, and it's called the M.2. And once again, this is computer storage drives becoming smaller and faster. So just a real brief history of storage drives that have transitioned over the years. In the beginning, the old line hard disk drive, 3.5 inch, that has lasted, think about it, for more than 35 years. I can remember working in an office atmosphere in the late 80s when we got our first hard drive on a computer, and it was 40 megabytes. And we all talked about it and said, how will we ever use that much space? And that capacity, as we all know, for the typical home user now has grew to 4 terabytes and larger. Those were old hard drives, magnetic heads, spinning platters at either 5,400 or 7,200 RPM, often resulted in failure over time. And then the 2.5-inch hard disk drive was created because that smaller size was initially wonderful to be placed in laptops. And that evolved into the 2.5-inch solid state drive with no moving parts. Now, the M.2 drive became available about 5 years ago, but except for enterprise systems and ultrabooks, it was really considered too expensive for typical home users. So when I was teaching at the local college, I would often tell my students, electronics is the only industry I can think of where each year the products get better, yet cost less, right? Think about that. Anyway, this is what happened with the M.2 drive. And now the consumer can begin to benefit from the physical and internal advantages of this format. So it's a smaller size with faster read and write speeds. Now today, the M.2 solid drive is readily available as a storage device option in new computers. Now look at that, from that picture, you can see that this form factor resembles a stick of gum. It's considerably smaller than the 2.5-inch solid state drive, and it plugs directly into the motherboard like a memory stick. This provides faster read and write speeds and eliminates the need for power and data cables. Now it's adaptable too. It achieves its fastest speeds when directly connected to the motherboard. But if you really wanted to buy one now and use it on an older desktop, you could use a PCIe interface adapter or even an external enclosure that would be connected to an available USB 3.1 port. So I did a performance test now on a regular solid state drive versus a hard disk drive. So this is what I call my music computer. I keep almost all my music on this one computer, and it has 2 drives. It has a Samsung 1 terabyte 2.5-inch solid state drive. That came out with a read speed of 318 megabytes per second and a write speed of 495. And on that same laptop with a mechanical 2 terabyte drive, the read speed was only 68 and a write speed of 73. So that's just in a normal solid state drive versus the hard disk drive. You can see the difference in the speeds. And then I did a performance test with my old desktop, and this has the a little bit higher end Samsung solid state drive. And this one came up with a read speed of 541 and a write speed of 484. Much, much faster than the hard disk drive. So with these faster read and write speeds, first of all, in that picture, you can see the difference in size between a 2.5-inch solid state drive and the new M.2 drive. And most 2.5-inch drives will provide read and write speeds of around 530, 500 megabytes with a SATA connection. But the M.2, when you use this, it's called the NVM Express as the controller, that can process as much as 3,500 megabytes per second, which is 7 times faster than the SATA drive and 35 times faster than a standard hard disk drive. Now, here's where size does matter. The model number tells you the physical size of the M.2 solid state drive. And all models use 4 numbers, and those 4 numbers, the first 2 digits are always 22. What is 22? Well, that represents the width of that new solid state drive in millimeters. The next 2 numbers are the length in millimeters. And you might see 80, 60, 42, 30, and that gives you model numbers that correspond with those numbers like 2280, 2260, etc. The longer size provides more flash memory capacity, while the smaller size will easily fit into thin ultrabooks and other very small type computer devices. Now, M.2 drives can be either SATA or NVM Express using the PCIe protocol. The same physical size, but it's hard to tell maybe from this picture, but they have slightly different pin connections. Just the thing to remember is the NVM Express has the faster read and write speeds. Now, Amazon, I just checked for the heck of it, offers two M.2 drives, a Samsung model, 2 terabyte for about $320, and a Western Digital Blue, 1 terabyte for about $105. So you want to install an M.2 in an existing computer? The very and most important consideration is to determine if your motherboard has a dedicated M.2 connector slot. So the best way to find that out is to go to the computer manufacturer's website. They should be able to provide you with motherboard specifications that will answer this question. If your motherboard does not have a specific M.2 connection slot, then you don't need to go any further if you want to direct connectivity, because you won't be able to have it. Now, depending on its type and functionality, an M.2 drive can use either the older SATA interface or this newer NVM Express, that stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express Interface Protocol. If you're going to use the SATA interface, then basically it's going to be about the same speed as a 2.5-inch drive. If you want that faster speeds, then you have to make sure the M.2 drive can utilize the NVM Express communications protocol. So I was in the market to purchase a new computer. And so now that I learned about this, I specifically looked for one with an M.2 solid state drive already installed that uses the NVMe interface protocol. I found one, I'm setting it up, and I'm going to give you more about that new computer and considerations I used in making that purchase in a future presentation. But for now, let me just suggest those that have a further interest in this, there are numerous videos on YouTube providing all the information you could want just by typing M.2 SSD in the YouTube search box. One of my favorites was provided by an entity known as PowerCert Animated Videos. The explanation is clear, and they use animated videos for people like me, so it's easy to follow and understand. And the good news is it's less than 7 minutes long. Thank you, folks.
Spring has arrived. It's also a great time to do a spring cleaning of our Windows 10 computer. A good place to start would be by uninstalling applications that you don't use. You may even find some applications that you don't know how they ever got to your computer in the first place. This tip may seem obvious, but it's a good place to start. Many apps that you install add startup programs or background system services that make your PC take longer to boot and that use resources in the background. Some programs clutter File Explorer's content menus with options. Others, especially PC games, can just use a lot of disk space. That's fine if you use these applications and find them beneficial, but it's easy to install a large number of applications and find yourself not using them at all. To clean things up, uninstall the applications that you don't use. On Windows 10, you can head to Settings, Apps, and Features to see a list of applications that you can uninstall. You can also access the traditional uninstall or change a program pane in the classic control panel. Yes, Windows 10 still has the control panel. Once you remove those programs and apps, the next logical place is to remove browser extensions that you don't need and probably never use after installing them. Browser extensions are similar to apps, and it's easy to install a bunch and find yourself not using them. However, browser extensions can slow down your web browsing, and most of them have access to everything you do in your browser. That makes them a security and a privacy concern, especially if they're created by a company or individual you don't trust. Go through your web browser's installed extensions and remove ones that you don't use or trust in Google Chrome or any other browser you may be using. In Chrome, for example, click Menu, More Tools, Extensions to find them. In Mozilla Firefox, click Menu Add-ons in Microsoft Edge, click Menu Extensions. Once you get to them, you can get rid of them. Just select Remove. Many of the programs and apps that you've installed like to start when your system starts. So tweak your startup program. We recommend uninstalling programs that you don't need and that you aren't using. To find the startup program controls on Windows 10, right-click your taskbar in a blank spot and select Task Manager. Or you can use the shortcut keys Control, Shift, and Escape. Click the Startup tab, and if you don't see it, click More Details first. You can also find a similar tool at Settings, Apps, Startup. Disable any programs that you don't want running at boot time. Many of them will not be necessary. Bear in mind that this may impact functionality. For example, if you choose not to run Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox at boot, then they won't launch and synchronize your files automatically. You will have to open them after the computer's startup process is completed for that to happen. The more things you have running when the system starts, the slower the boot time and the more resources are being used. So choose those programs that start at boot wisely. Organize your desktop and files. Spring cleaning isn't just about making your PC run faster, it's also about making you faster at using it. Cleaning up your messy desktop is a big part of that. And if you don't want to clean up your desktop, consider just hiding your desktop icons, which you can do easily by right-clicking your desktop and unchecking View Show Desktop Icons. Beyond that, consider opening File Explorer and organizing your personal files and folders. There's a good chance that your download folder in particular needs a cleanup or just some quick delete of old downloads that you no longer need. Whichever folder you use frequently, consider pinning them to the Quick Access sidebar in File Explorer for easier access to your stuff. Clean up your taskbar and Start menu. While you're at it, consider pruning or reorganizing your taskbar icons. If your taskbar is full of icons for applications that you don't need, unpin them by right-clicking them and selecting Unpin from the taskbar. Rearrange them with drag and drop to reposition them wherever you like on the taskbar. Look at customizing your Start menu too. Windows 10's default Start menu is packed with shortcut tiles that you probably don't even use. If you've never customized it, now's a good time to ensure that only the programs you use are pinned to its tiles area. Tidy up your browser and its bookmarks. You probably spend a lot of time in your computer's web browser. If you use its bookmark feature, consider taking some time to reorganize your bookmarks in a way that makes sense. It's easiest to do this from your browser's bookmarks manager, rather than fiddling with the bookmarks toolbar. In Google Chrome, click Menu, Bookmarks, Bookmark Manager to launch it. Consider backing up your bookmark before continuing, in case you want them again in the future. Run disk cleanup to free up space. If you want to clean up some temporary files and free up some disk space, try using the disk cleanup tool built into Windows. On Windows 10, open the Start menu, search for Disk Cleanup using the search box, and click Disk Cleanup to launch it. Click the Cleanup System Files button to ensure that you're cleaning up both your Windows user accounts files and system-wide files. Depending on how long it's been since you last ran this tool, you may be able to free up gigabytes of unnecessary files. For example, files related to old Windows updates. Look carefully through the list of things that disk cleanup plans to delete to ensure that the tool doesn't delete anything that you want to keep. Dust out your PC. If you have a desktop PC, you should be opening it regularly and giving it a quick dust. Be sure to turn the PC off first. Dusting your laptop may also be necessary. Dust often builds up in your PC's fan and in other components, reducing their cooling effectiveness. As a result, your PC may run hotter, or at least the fan will have to work harder to provide the same amount of cooling. While you don't have to go crazy in thoroughly cleaning every part of your PC, we do recommend powering off your PC and cleaning it with compressed air. Never use a vacuum for this. You should also clean your dirty keyboard, monitor, and more. Dust on the inside of the PC can affect performance and cooling, but there's probably dust elsewhere too. On the screen, on your computer's motherboard, in between the keys on your keyboard, and more. Spring cleaning is a great time to do a nice deep clean. To clean your monitor, all you need is a standard microfiber cloth, the same kind you'd use to wipe a pair of eyeglasses. To deep clean your keyboard, you can generally remove the keys and use compressed air or a vacuum to clean out the accumulated debris. You might also just turn the keyboard upside down if it's not part of the laptop. Sometimes lots of stuff comes out of it you didn't even know was in that keyboard.